On the occasion of the conference, organized in November 2004, as a moment of verification of the laboratory research activity, a comparison was made between photogrammetry as the 3D laser scanner. As an object of the survey was identified was a trello, for its fairly complex shape but not large. As regards photogrammetry, the recovery has been made, both with the Wild C120 stereometric chamber that we've already seen before, both with a digital camera developed by the operator. These are two former graduate students who carried out the thesis in photogrammetric survey of architecture. The experimental chamber was composed by two cameras, normal but digital. As for the 3D laser scanner, it was a separate matter, since in addition to the speed of the survey, you can treat the point cloud and get all the information we want. Here we see, in particular, the point cloud treated with meshes of different sizes. An orthophoto of the trello has also been obtained. While for the photogrammetric model, the video we saw was presented. We can go around the trello, we can go inside. But there are two basic points in this comparison. When man has modern techniques at his disposal, perhaps taken by enthusiasm, he forgets what he had to do. The trap you had to get out of. It was that of orthogonal projections. That is, projecting an object on a wall, on another wall, and horizontally. Make different sections, but all because, mentally at least, this model could be reassembled and observed as it was a Now one is lucky enough to have the three-dimensional model and make me an orthophoto just of the trello, which has the three-dimensional elevation par excellence. Do the orthophoto, it means that you forgot that the purpose of using the 3D technique is to have a three-dimensional model and being able to observe it in all its details. You go to place a tree in front of an elevation. But many years ago there was the joke of whom? In front of a building hidden by creepers and trees. She said we almost burn the tree and destroy the creeper, because these elements bothered the relief. And now, with the luck of having rebuilt the model nice and clean, to show, do you go to place a tree in front? And alarming this because it shows that we are forgotten what is the goal is of relief. We must never forget it, both in the school environment, but also in the professional field. The relief serves to redesign the building. So once there is the possibility of having the virtual model, to be able to disassemble and reassemble, starting with the simple elements. Let's see for a moment the Cathedral of Acerenza. Starts from the counter, the simple bench, which appears in the photogrammetric shots. It must be dismantled and rebuilt, table on table, as the carpenter would do. And, once this is done, it must be archived. Then there is the confessional. Then there are all the furnishings, in the case of the church. In the case of other buildings, the corresponding furnishings. All this serves to build a library of furniture. Then we move on to the building elements. Can be the capital, can be the column. It can be the type of base of the column. Are elements that must be detected individually, and then reassembled to rebuild that building or the other building. Therefore the trello should be dismantled. Even since the modeling program allows you to materialize the elements. Check if the legend is true, according to which, removing a particular ashlar, the trello really collapses. According to legend, the trulli were illegal buildings. constructed in such a way that, in case of checks, you could bring it down by removing a ashlar. So much for the concept of relief. Another fundamental fact that arises immediately is that once we have rebuilt all buildings, churches, etc., it's about communicating them outside. Then we all have the virtual model, with the problem of making software available. As long as you don't even have to think to provide many sections, horizontal, vertical, or whatever they are, on many sheets which, on the other hand, are easily obtained from the model with the modeling program. So instead of having an infinite number of plants or sections, which should also be interpreted, in my opinion, it is possible to frame the object designed in the details that interest. The same bank can be isolated from everything and sent back, today, to the market, in image. As for the measures, all that remains is to detect the model photogrammetrically. Let us not forget that, so far, the problem of non-metric chambers was in the difficulties encountered when we had to orientate the room with single chamber, as in this case. The thesis artist mounted the digital camera on a total station. But when we have a total station, we can already think of the metric chamber. It costs nothing to buy a metric room. Having regard to the costs of the total station, we are in a professional sector. But when it comes to it, with surveys carried out with normal rooms, to ensure the normal case, we can think of the laser pen. There are 1,000 solutions to be sure that there is orthogonality between the base and the optical axis of the chamber. And if this orthogonality fails, the relief is to be forgotten, because the three elementary formulas are missing that we had seen at the beginning, and that we review on the screen. And we realize that everything is based on a right triangle. And when the right triangle fails, everything is questioned. We can resort to more complex formulas with suitable calculators, but already in this way we have problems. Let's imagine we have to detect multiple control points. So in this phase, with the digital camera, if there was the model with checkpoints, we can orient the virtual rooms so as to give us back our orientation. Considering that in digital cameras, each frame is already accompanied by the main distance and a series of data which are stored at the time of shooting, and that can be obtained with particular programs. As for the main point, let's also say that it can be obtained, assuming it is central, but it's not central. Yes, it is a systematic error that we can always eliminate, or at least give us an error that leaves the time it finds. But once you get the model that matches the real one, we can afford the luxury of taking over the model with a digital stereo camera, ad hoc, absolutely precise. And therefore we can adapt and network the frames with a program like StereoPhot. Observe the three-dimensional model and take the measures we want. The first question that arises is, because, if there is the model of the original, I have to take measurements from the virtual stereo model. The answer is simple: because the original model gives us, like, the 3D laser scan, the skin of the building, the skin of the detected object, while the virtual model can be dismantled, can be analyzed in detail, and thanks to interactivity, you can take it from inside a church. We always take the example of the counter, which can be taken, dismantled. See how it's made. The altar can be taken, removed. See how it's made. Always according to what he believed he could do, the detector. Then the paradox presents itself. that after the photogrammetric survey, the user still finds a photogrammetric survey in his hands. But this time of the digital model. But it's another matter entirely. We will analyze together what it means to make available to everyone, and therefore involve everyone a little. From the craftsman to the professional. In the discussion on validity of what has been, say, written on the net. And we will go back to talking about the network in more detail. We have just taken an overview.